Good afternoon and welcome to Gold FM Speak Your Mind, live on radio and, rebroadcast on FBC TV. And with me in studio this afternoon, I'm joined by the immigrant, the immigrant visa chief at the U.S. Embassy here in Suva, Ms. Cindy J. Crook. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we are going to talk about something that's quite often talked about here in the country, and something that a lot of Fijians wish to attain. And I'll be very honest, in my family, a lot talk about this, and that's what is known as the green card lottery. Now, could you just tell us what the diversity visa is all about?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's the best part of my job. I think it's one of the most amazing things that the U.S. government does in our immigration policy. I'm very proud of it. In 1995, they passed some regulations that allow for 50,000 immigrant visas to be made available to countries around the world that traditionally don't send a lot of immigrants to the United States. So to keep in our culture the richness of the diversity, they dreamed up the Diversity Visa Lottery Program. Most folks call it the Green Card Lottery because the permanent resident card used to be green, but we call it the Diversity Visa Lottery.
I've been looking out for those cards. I actually thought that they used to be green, but
Yeah.
they aren't now. Yeah.
No, they're not green anymore.
Now, when does this open, and how do you get to attain one of these diversity visas?
Okay, so this is an annual program, and it opens every year normally in early October, and it runs for 30 days. This year it's already opened, and it will close Fiji time 4 a.m. on November 3rd, so you might not want to wait until the last day. To apply for the program, it's free, and that's the first thing that I really want everyone to know is that there's no cost to enter the lottery. So don't pay anyone a fee because to enter it's free. You go to dvlottery.state.gov, and that's the only website that you can enter. So if you're paying someone, they're still entering you in dvlottery.state.gov. Okay, so you'll go to that website, and it asks you a series of questions about yourself, your biographic information, your spouse, your unmarried children that are under the ages of 21, and you scan in a photo, and you hit send. You get a confirmation number, and you keep track of that confirmation number. The first week of May in 2015, you take your confirmation number and you log back into your account. You have an account at dvlottery.state.gov where the Department of State communicates with you. And inside your account is the only place that Department of State is going to give you any information telling you that you've won for further processing. Okay, so you keep your confirmation number, you log in, and if you're one of the lucky, when you log in May of 2015, there'll be a message there stating that you've been selected for further processing.
Okay.
Oh,
So there's no licensed consultant or all these that we get to hear about that people
No.
pay for.
No, and I know it's really common, and it's really tempting to believe that if you just pay someone $1,000 that they can get it for you, but I can tell you that that's not the case. If it seems too good to be true, it's definitely too good to be true. dvlottery.state.gov is free. It's free. Okay, the only time an applicant would pay a fee, so you're selected, let's say in May of 2015. You have about a year then. The process takes about a year. You submit all of your paperwork, your birth certificates, and that kind of thing to our Kentucky Consular Center. They put it in a nice package for me, and they mail it to me out here in Fiji. We schedule you your visa interview appointment. You come in, and inside my consular section with my cashier is the only time you pay a fee, and that's an application fee. It's non-refundable, but that's the only time in the process that you're going to pay anyone anything. So if you're not paying my cashier inside the U.S. Embassy's consular section, then you're getting taken advantage of.
Now, have Fiji seems to have a lot of successful applicants. In the past, I've even seen. Well, I'm going to digress a little bit. I've seen some of those letters from those so-called consultants, and they look pretty real. And like you said, if it seems too good, then most likely it's not that good. And now I'm going back to now when Fijians apply and are successful. They seem to have had a lot of success with this. Is there a reason?
Yeah, there is. It's actually makes my job all the more fun. Is that our Oceania region? So the world's divided up into regions, and our region doesn't send high amounts of family-based immigrants to the States. So we get a fair number of visas in the program, and we don't have a huge population, let's say like Africa does. And so I looked back the last 14, 15 years in Fiji. Every year, about 5 to 7,000 Fijians enter the lottery, and every year between 600 and 1,200 people are selected. And those odds are really good. Really good.
Yeah. I've even had family members that have gotten through and have come back and gotten their children to get across to the States.
Yeah.
And continue to do so. Now, why is it that certain other regions, so to speak, aren't as I mean, yes, they may continue to have the same cycle that the American government would like or encourage in terms of immigration, but aren't as successful. Say, for instance, if someone from this region was living somewhere else, say in the UK, what are the chances of them applying for the same lottery? Would there be there'd definitely be different criteria applied to them?
No, the criteria is the same. So the countries that qualify, it's the country where you're born. Okay, it doesn't matter where you're living. In fact, as I just saw a winner just this week that's living in New Zealand as a nurse, and this person just won this week. It was really exciting because the program for this year is very new. It doesn't matter where you're resident. It matters your chargeability is the country of where you were born. So there's some very strict criteria. In some cases, you may be able to use the chargeability of your parents. If they were tourists at a time and your mom accidentally gave birth to you, but your parents are Fijian, but they went to India for a wedding and they had you and they brought you right back to Fiji, you still may be able to use your parents' chargeability or your parents' country of birth. But it's better just to ask yourself, where was I born? If I was born in Fiji, then I'm good to go.
So at this time, Fiji is a great place to say that you're born.
Yeah, well, for this program, it's a really good place. The other thing that I noticed that a lot of my Fijian applicants, and also Tongans too, is they meet the criteria to qualify for the visa. So once you're selected and you come in to see me at your visa interview, you still need to demonstrate that you qualify for that visa. Now, as you enter dvlottery.state.gov and read the instructions, it tells you this, that you're selected, but we want to make sure that when you get to the States that you can make a living for yourself. So there are two ways that applicants can qualify. One, if you have Form 6 pass. So Form 6 pass, the Fiji Leaving School Certificate, is the equivalent of a U.S. high school education. So if you have your Form 6 pass, then you're going to qualify. You have met the education requirement for that piece of the interview. The other way that folks can qualify is through their profession. And the professions are a little bit tricky, right? Because you need to go to onetonline.org, which is our Department of Labor website, and you need to check to see, does the work that you've been doing for 2 out of the last 5 years have a score of 7 or higher? And then if it does, you may qualify. If your job scores 7 or lower, you may not qualify. But Fijians and Tongans, you have a high level of education. Many people have passed Form 6, so they tick that box, and away they go.
I like that you've said that. I like that you've said that Fijians and Tongans have a higher level of education.
They do.
Well, on that note, we'll take a short break right here on Speak Your Mind. If you do have questions, do call us up, 3220906, 3220907, or flick us an email at goldfm@fbc.com.fj. Welcome back to Gold FM Speak Your Mind. I'm with the Immigrant Visa Chief at the U.S. Embassy here in Suva, Cindy J. Crook. And now, Ms. Crook, just before the break, we were talking a little bit about criteria and how it qualifies. Now, we're looking at when those who have initially received the visa, is there some other requirements that they need to fulfill, like processing? What is the first stage that they come through?
So the first thing to make sure, if you're going to enter, we want to make sure that you have the best chances of being issued a visa. Okay, and so you want to make sure that you only enter yourself once, because we have special technology now that if you enter more than once, your applications are going to match to each other and you're automatically going to be disqualified. So
Okay.
just make sure that you only enter once each year. You and your spouse can enter. If both of you have a Form 6 or both of you have work experience that qualifies, you can both enter, and you can, if she wins, great. If you win, great. So enter once per person. The second thing you want to make sure that you do is that you include your spouse and all your unmarried children under the age of 21, even if they don't have any intention of going with you. So if you're legally married, you have to put your spouse down. And if you have children, whether they be stepchildren, adopted children, or biological children that are under 21 and they're not married, you have to include them when you enter. If you add them later, when you come in for your visa interview, you're going to be disqualified. And they have that rule, that regulation is very strict because of child trafficking issues, where people win and then they try to get money to take someone else's children across, right? So it's very strict. The last thing that you want to make sure is that if you're going to enter, that you meet that educational or work experience requirement. Because I know that if you enter and you're selected, it's really tempting to move forward with it. Come right in for your interview, pay your non-refundable application fee in the hopes that somehow miraculously we're not going to notice that you didn't have Form 6 or that your work doesn't qualify. We want everyone that comes for their interview to be able to qualify. The other kind of thing to watch out for is if you have some criminal issues, it may not be the best program for you. Okay, because the program is over so quickly that even if we can get a waiver for whatever it is that's happened, you may not still have time to get issued before the program is over. If your spouse has some issues and they need to seek a waiver, you can go on ahead and then petition for them to come at a later date.
Okay. Now, with this process, there's still, we get a lot of callers, even with those who have been cheated by scammers here in Fiji, especially with those who purport to be visa immigrant consultants for especially green card lottery. Is there a way that the U.S. Embassy in all these countries, including Fiji, have a way of tracking these people, or is that dependent only on the government?
It's really dependent on the person who's entering to be savvy, let's say. We try to keep an eye on what's happening. There are genuine travel agents, let's say, that have internet access in their agency, and they charge a fee for the use of their equipment, basically, right? And that's not necessarily a scam because they are on dvlottery.state.gov, and they are entering you in the program. So that's one type of person that you may see advertising, seeking services. The other kind is a flat-out scam that says that if you mail me $500, I will guarantee you a green card, right? Those are flat-out scams. If you could pay for a green card, ask yourself why it's only $500, right? Because people would pay millions of dollars if it was something that you could just pay to get, and you can't, okay? For the travel agents, I just spoke about the very strict requirements, and the only person that determines if you're going to qualify and be issued the visa is the consular officer at your visa interview. So if someone else has filled out your form for you and they've done so incorrectly, they didn't list your spouse, they didn't list your children, they entered you more than once, you may not know until you have paid your application fee and gone to your visa interview only to find out that you have become disqualified. If you fill your own form, then you know what information that you put down and you know it to be true and correct. And you also have to read the instructions and you can see for yourself, do I meet the education requirement? Do I meet the, right? There's no chance of anyone tricking you.
That's right.
But if you let your application be submitted by someone else, there's no way later for you to know if they've put the true and correct information. They may also hold your confirmation number hostage. So for you to find out if you've won, you may have to pay again. And then they may say, I'm not going to submit the paperwork to the Kentucky Consular Center unless you pay me again. And it might be a never ending cycle, and you still might be disqualified at the time of the interview.
And you lose all that money.
You lose all that money. And it's a free program. It's free to enter. That we want people to enter regardless of their economic background. It's free. Don't pay anyone. And everyone has a son or a daughter who's really good with computers, or a grandchild that can help you out, that you know and trust, that will do a good entry for you. Ask your family. If you can't do it yourself, ask your family to help you.
Now, there are some skeptics that will say, why does the U.S. government want this program to continue when they have immigration problems in the U.S.? What does this immigration policy encourage?
Yeah. Some of the founders of some of our biggest companies in the United States, like Apple, Google, McDonald's, they owe their origins to a founder that was an immigrant or the child of an immigrant, right? The idea of immigration is what our nation is founded on. And this is a legitimately positive way to get a good mix of people, a good mix of Americans. We need more Fijians in the States, right? We need the things that the Fijians bring to our culture to make it really, really rich. And we need some help with our rugby team, too.
That's right.
So the more Fijians we have.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we're almost running out of time. But again, just to reiterate, the lottery closes. When does it close again?
Very early in the morning, November 3rd. Don't wait till the last week because the system can slow down.
Anything else you'd like to add on just before we wrap up?
Yes, dvlottery.state.gov. If it is not that website, it is not our website. And please, it is free to enter. Don't pay anyone to enter you. And good luck. I hope I see you at my window.
And you'll be seeing my face too, perhaps. Oops, before my boss hears that too. On that note, we'll wrap up this segment. And thank you again, Ms. Cook, for joining us this afternoon on Gold FM Speaking Mind.
It's my pleasure, Pathali. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll take a short break. We'll be right back. We are going to talk about breast cancer awareness. It is October and it's Pinktober. We'll be talking to health ministry officials regarding this issue. Welcome back to Gold FM Speak Your Mind, and with me in studio now we're going to tackle the issue of breast cancer awareness. Now, it being October and synonymous with the term that a lot has been said regarding this with Pinktober, what it means and what the whole campaign really is about. Joining me on the show this afternoon is Dr. Kostas Serafimidis, the consultant surgeon at CWM Hospital and FNU, and Dr. Ifiremi Wangainambete, a familiar face for many, consultant surgeon also at CWM Hospital. Gentlemen, welcome on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pradhan.
Now, let's talk about breast cancer awareness. I'll be very simple and ask, how are we in Fiji doing in terms of prevalence?
Thank you, Pedeli. The data shows that breast cancer is now the leading cancer in the country. It's actually overtaken cervical cancer for women. And if we look at what's happening in the trends around the world, this is not going to stop. The trend will continue to rise. Obviously, with cervical cancer, there is now an immunization in place. It's called the HPV immunization, and that will hopefully curtail cervical cancer in this country. But certainly with breast cancer, there is no immunization. So that is a challenge that we are faced with. So we now have breast cancer as now the leading cancer in women, and possibly the leading cancer, if you take it specifically per organ, in this country. Breast cancer is the leading cancer.
That's quite a serious now the stage that we're at, if you're to say that, and in terms of this being prevalent also with women in our country. Am I right in making that statement?
Yeah, it is, Bedeli. I mean, if you look at our data, because we don't have a screening program, So, and Dr. Costas, my colleague, who's with the medical school, he's come from, obviously a nation in Europe which will have screening programs. We don't have screening programs. So, really, our patients come to us with advanced part of the condition because we're not able to tackle the pathology at its earliest stage. And so we're having to deal with the people in the middle to the late stage of the disease. And this is the challenge. For us, that is the biggest challenge, is that the trend is rising, but we continue to have people coming at the middle to the late end of the disease.
And this is where all the information about the awareness of the disease is important. Now, how are we doing in terms of doing this? Well, screening, and in terms of disseminating the information to those who need it.
Yeah, the thing is that what is very important when we talk about breast cancer, and also for any type of cancer, is the early diagnosis. So the early diagnosis actually is the game changer, is the factor that is the most important factor in any patient with cancer. And because breast is a very easily accessible organ of the woman's body, it is very easy for us, the doctors, to examine this and do some tests in order to find out if there is a problem there or not. So this test predominantly is mammogram. Mammogram is a very sensitive test in terms of diagnosing breast cancer. And something between 90 and 95% of the breast cancers can be diagnosed with mammogram. Also can be diagnosed in a very early stage. But as my colleague Dr. Wanga said before, and he's very much right, the problem here is that most of the patients come to us in an extremely late stage of the disease. And even if we can actually deal with this, but the success rate is very, very low. So actually our hands in conditions like this are tied. So the message is that we try to teach, to raise the public awareness of the women that they need to look after the breast. Even though they don't have any symptoms, they need to, especially above the 45th year of age, they need every second year to have a mammogram, even they don't have any symptoms.
Dr. Wanganabet, I'm going to ask, are there any cultural implications on how or why the early detection is hindered?
Again, there's two issues there. Number one is we must accept the fact that screening is very expensive. And that is why, certainly in a nation like ours, we will not be able to afford screening programs for breast cancer. It will take a significant amount of money to be able to do that. And that is why the Pink October and the awareness is so important. So that every year, at least every year in this month, women all over this nation can, pause and say, hold on. Should I get my breast checked? Should I have a feel of myself? Should I get somebody else to have a feel? And I think it's probably one of the best things about the Pink October. Having said that, when this all started about 5 to 10 years ago, there wasn't, obviously there wasn't much awareness. Sure. Certainly from, in the Pacific, we often look at this in the early stages and we sort of laugh at this and say, yes. Is this
I was going to say,
is this something that we should take seriously?
Hello?
But again, the numbers have shown
here. All our chances
that this
to
is
have our
something
dreams
that we
come
should
true.
take
And it just
seriously.
takes two.
And
It
it
takes
is
two.
proven
Good.
that. And certainly, there's a lot more there's a lot more changes that are happening within the environment, not only in the medical fraternity but also right throughout society, where it's beginning to penetrate right through down, and I can see it even going down right into the villages. And I hope that with in the engagement of supporters right across the spectrum, that this will continue to happen, and that the woman who's right in the village or in the settlement will be able to say, look, this is an opportunity for me to pause and look after my health. Having said that, I think the other important thing to realize is there are between 30 and 50 is where the majority of the diseases and the majority of the deaths are. And these are women. If you look at it from the social aspect, our women are not respected unless they hit about 40 to 50. So these are women who have so much to give to our community, but their life is being slapped out of them.
On that note, Dr. Wanganabete and Dr. Costas, I'm going to have to take a short break. We'll be right back on Speak Your Mind. We're talking about breast cancer awareness and, of course, through the month of October, observing Pinktober. If you do have questions, do call us up, 3220906 and 3220907, or flick us an email at goldfm@fbc.com.fg. You're back on Gold FM, Speak Your Mind, and we're speaking with Dr. Costas Serafimidis and also Dr. Ifiremi Wanganabete on with regards to breast cancer awareness. And it is the month of October, and for many years now, or in the recent years, has become synonymous with the color pink and marking Pinktober. But the last, I'd say here in Fiji, the past, I'd say 10 years or so, Pinktober wasn't an awareness month as much as it is now. And this has been brought about a lot of awareness from health officials such as yourselves, and also has been taken down, the bringing down the information to those who are affected, those in our villages, those at the grassroots levels. Now, Dr. Wanganabete, how much work and how much progress have we done as the Ministry of Health and as with the partners and also as people of Fiji? How have we changed over the past few years?
Thank you. I'd like to answer that from the whole gambit sort of thing, Pedeli, because really the issues with cancer in Pinktober is really this is a societal commitment rather than just the Ministry of Health, and I think that's been one of the excitements is because you've got agencies such as donors and Fiji Cancer Society and other people coming to the fore and say, look, we want to be part of this. And this is so important because unless
Having
society actually has a commitment to raising awareness on cancer and breast cancer and other forms of cancer, then really we are left with the Ministry of Health being able to do this on their own. And I guess the other thing that the Pinktober does that I believe is so important is it also raises awareness on the other cancers.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, because apart from breast cancer being so important in being the leading cancer for women in our country, you've got to remember that there are many other people who have other cancers. And Costas, your thoughts on this, and also from Greece where you came from, in terms of awareness?
Yeah, people in my home country are very much aware of breast cancer, and because lately with financial crisis and all these bad things that happened in Greece, there is no official screening program. But people have taken the situation in their hands, and they go, and even if there is no coverage from the government, they pay for their mammogram on an annual or biannual basis, and they go and try to do the screening according to the instructions from the doctors. And I know that maybe this costs some more money for every single individual, but you need to take into account that mammogram is not very much expensive. I mean, it's a test that it's rather an affordable test. So this is what happens in Greece. You know very well, Dr. Wanga, from New Zealand. The New Zealand experience is very well-established screening system. So there is a big screening system, and all the women every second year they have a mammogram and they get checked. And this is the key point in the breast cancer management, to catch the cancer, to catch the lesion before this cancer gives any symptoms. Because some years ago, when we were talking about the prognosis of breast cancers, we were talking about 5 years survival. But now, if we check the studies, we're talking about 10 years or 15 years survival. And this has to do with the early diagnosis that is achieved in the advanced countries.
Well, definitely a huge change from how we are also, with the information that's available now, that plays a very important role, and also for people like us here in the media in passing on this type of message. How do you feel that sort of coordination has been progressing?
I think over the years it's been working very well. I've been involved for a few years with obviously with breast cancer and other cancers and picotoba, and I've seen the excitement continue to increase every year, and it really it's great because it makes our work a little bit easier, because we are on the receiving end. Really, when patients come to us, with their sickness that needs to be dealt with. Certainly, we are, our hands are tight, and in a country such as ours, resources are limited. But I must say that we've done a great job, and I think we need to put our hands up and continue to go forward. The only other thing that I believe that we really need to work on is the commitment from partners, and when I say partners, commitment from husbands in terms of breast cancer, commitment from husbands, commitment from family, especially as the men. I think this is not something that's limited only to breast cancer. It's other cancers where women are involved. Usually the men, may not be there to be as supportive as what we have seen in other countries. But certainly with the media beginning to continue to desensitize the population and say, look, this is a disease that is treatable in its early stages, I think, certainly we can achieve more.
All right. On that note, we'll take another short break, but we will come back to it. 3220-906, 3220-907. You can call us up in studio with any questions. We will talk about how partners and support that breast cancer patients and those who are with other cancers, what type of support that they need. We'll talk about all this in our next segment. It's 10 away from 1 o'clock on Gold FM Speaking. Gold FM Speak Your Mind. This afternoon we're tackling the issue of breast cancer awareness. It is October, and the month of Bigtober as celebrated marked across the world. And we just had a caller. Hopefully the caller do call us back. 3220-906, 3220-907. You can call us right now, or with any questions you can also send them to goldfm@mbc.com.fj. With us in studio, Dr. Kostas Serafimidis and also Dr. Ifiremi Wangainambete. We are talking about the types of support that family and also those who are involved with the patients that are with breast cancer or with other types of cancer. What kind of support do they provide?
It is very, very important, especially in the Fiji setting. Yeah, it is very important, as Dr. Wanga said, the support from the family. We very often we face some cases of patients come to the hospital in a very delayed presentation. So they have some lesions on the breast, which lesions are obvious from kilometers away. And the question that some can be raised is, how come and this lesion couldn't be noticed earlier and take this patient to...
Why did you let it go?
Exactly. And in this question, I think that the fact of family, husband, and very close family environment is involved, as well as some other traditional treatment options that are available here in the Fiji setting, like, for for example, massage or some
Herbal
other things,
remedies.
herbal remedies, and this kind of treatments. So the first part of this is the family. I think that the family should know that breast cancer and any type of cancer is very dangerous. So we can't leave our relative, our beloved relative, suffering from a very advanced stage of cancer, let home do nothing. And the other thing is that, with all the respect, most of the times this herbal medicine and massage, they both don't have any positive effect on outcome on breast cancer and any type of cancer. So if there is any suspicion of breast cancer, I would kindly ask, please attend to a medical practitioner, ask for medical advice. And if you see your beloved relative to have a problem with, might be cancer, might be something else, please convince them to go to seek for medical advice or consultation.
Dr. Wanga, what about here in Suva, in Fiji? What type of treatment do we offer? What stages are we at? Are we able to conduct surgery, or as a lot of information that is passed around, there's only overseas attention available?
We are quite fortunate because the government of the day has done a great job with the Ministry of Health. We have in the hospitals, we have, I would say, if I put a number, a rough estimate, I would say a lot of the cancers we have at least 80% of the treatment available locally. And I'm talking about the medical forms of treatment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about things such as the surgical interventions that are needed. I'm talking about the advent of some of the new drugs that are being tried overseas for other forms of cancer. For example, you'll be surprised to know that we also have them available here. So, we must thank the government and the Ministry of Health for a wonderful job in providing this free for our people. This is free. This is taxpayer funded, and this is free. And that's something that I always drive to the patients when I see them. I say, look, your treatment and your potential of cure, all it needs is your yes and your husband's yes, because everything else you don't pay for it. It's completely free. In America, you need health insurance. Many other nations around the world, they need health insurance. We don't. It's all taxpayer funded, and it's all free. And the other thing that just going back to what Dr. Costas was saying is we need to support people with cancer. When somebody has a cancer, they've got a growth, they have a lump, and they need treatment. And you think of it like, for example, sometimes I share to the husbands, I say, look, remember your wife when she was pregnant with your first baby. She had a lump, she had a growth, but he was a baby. And you were excited. When she finally had a baby, you were excited. You were excited for the baby, excited for and then now she's got a cancer. That excitement has phased away. And our wives, our women, our sisters who have breast cancer, they need that support. They need that excitement around them. I'm not saying being excited in a bad way.
Attentive.
But being attentive, being there for them. Yeah.
Now, do you feel, how are we in Fiji? How are we in terms of progress? Because we can say yes, in the last 10, I'll refer back, in times when my mother passed sadly of cancer, but over the last, I'd say from the last time, our family has a history of cancer. And over this, with my mother's case, the level of attentiveness and the level of concern and also awareness from our family members was a lot more than I just say than her older sister who passed 20 years ago, and even at one time was sort of discriminated against. Now, how do you take into you're observing Fiji now? How have we come?
I think we've improved in that area. Can we do more? Yes, we certainly can do a lot more. And the reason is very simple, Pedeli. We don't have the resources of the big countries. where they can send you a counselor, they can send you home help, they can send you a steward, somebody to do this for you. We don't. And so, that's where the rest of the family have to come in and pitch in and help. And simple things, for example, if you're, if you're somebody in the family's got cancer and they need to come into hospital for consultation, it's sad sometimes that they come alone. They come
Do
alone.
you still see this?
Oh, we still see this. They come alone and ask them, look, where's your husband? They say he's not here. So certainly what's going to happen is we're going to have a discussion, and after that we'll have to have another discussion. So, we can still do more, but we've certainly progressed.
Well, sadly, doctors, we've run out of time on the show. But is there any other last message that you would like to convey to the public?
Yeah, the message is that the take-home message, as we say, is that early diagnosis saves lives. And the other thing is that in this hospital, in CWM hospital, I believe that we can do 90% of, or maybe 95% of the operations to treat breast cancer. So I think that we can actually deal with breast cancer at a very good, decent level.
On that note, thank you very much, doctors, for being on the
Thank you.
show. And that's a wrap here on Gold FM Speak Your Mind. You can send your comments to goldfm@fbc.com.fj. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. You can join us again, same time, same place, right here on Gold FM Speak Your Mind.